Time. Hey, what's up, guys? How are you? My name is Ted, otherwise known as Escape Time. Welcome to a special edition of Under the Suds. Normally we broadcast Wednesdays, which was back that way, yesterday at 8 p.m. But tonight we actually have a very special guest. My friend Russ, who owns craftcans.com, is here. We're going to talk about pretty much the history of cans and his new book and drink some beers. So real quick, let me get you guys a quick rundown of the rules if this is your first time here. And if it is, welcome. Don't forget to hit that follow button. This is a beer review talk show. We talk about beer. We have several different rules here. No repeat beers, so every single beer we do on this show will never be reviewed again. We keep a list. Currently, it's not up to date, but I will get it up to date probably tomorrow since I'm working from home. Great for me. No mega breweries, so anything that has Budweiser, any macro breweries that are out there, none of that. Show respect to the reviewers. It's their opinions. Got to remember that everybody's taste is different. So one person might enjoy a beer that you might not enjoy. So just respect their opinions. But most of all, have fun and have a pint. And if you're underage, I don't want to know. Don't tell. Especially if you're in the U.S. Other countries, I don't care. But don't tell. Anyway. Like I said, tonight we have Russell Phillips here. Russ, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It has been a long time since we actually had a chance to sit down and talk. We've talked on Facebook a bunch, but I guess the last time we actually saw each other was when we ran into each other at Oscar Blues, and I can't even remember how long that was.
That was years ago. Seems very apropos now, though.
Yeah. I was looking at the site earlier today, and I think there's a picture all the way down at the bottom, and it has you with the then head brewer of Oscar Blues. And I was looking at it, and I was like, wait a minute, I think I took that picture.
You might have, yeah. Yeah, and he's actually gone on. He's at Melvin, brewing up in Wyoming now.
Oh, really? Wow. I saw he didn't get swept away before to another brewery before that.
Yeah, he might have. I don't know.
Oh, this song is long. So we generally do I have music on in the background. You can't hear it. I can hear it in my ear, and they can hear it. So anyway, generally we do a beer review, like we were talking about before, at the start of the show, and I most of the time let guests go first, but it's up to you. Do you want me to go first, or do you?
Yeah, why don't you go first? Show me how it's done.
All right, I'll show you how it's done. Not that there's much to it, but you know, it is what it is. And the song is that. Great. It's the one thing. It's like these songs are so long. It was a Viking pillage for Sathras, who's a Viking from Norway. All right, let me flip to the screen here, the solo screen, and take down this and jump into the beer screen. All right, guys. So an extra special review here. So we have and since Russ is here, right? I decided that I would have to do a can, obviously. So this is, and Sathras, please, for the love of God, tell me how the hell to say this. It's a Agar, Indian Pale Ale. I think it's Agar, but it is from Norway. It's another one of the beers that Sathras was nice enough to bring me while we were at PAX East. I only have two left, but this is the second one. So I was looking up this brewery, and thankfully they did have an English translation to all the Viking all the way. Yes, Ray, I see, definitely. So they did have an English translation. This actually is a brew pub and restaurant that puts this out. They also have a hotel that's associated to it, but they do can and do kegs regionally in the area. So wherever they are in Norway. South, I couldn't be able to pronounce the town if I even tried. So anyhow, so we're gonna crack this open. You can notice that the top of this is a bit different than what you see what I've seen on most cans. Like this is another can that I'm gonna, my secondary beer. This is the general, which you'll see around in the U.S. right? But Russ, you did say that this type of can pop top is something another brewery in the U.S. is doing right now.
Yeah. So one of the major can manufacturers is Crown, and they came up with this design. So basically, it turns the can into a cup. So like Fly Fox outside of Philly.
Oh, okay.
Well, so when you pop that open, it's going to basically allow you to. You could drink it straight from the can. It's not, going to limit your ability to smell the beer and all of that. So.
All right. I'm gonna hopefully this wasn't shaken in the process of getting. Oh wow. All right. Oh wow, that's actually kind of cool. So there you go, guys. I'm gonna kind of not try to spill the beer on. There you go. Like I said, turns it into a cup, right there. But you know what? Since you're here, I do have my craft can. My craft cans.
So flatters.
Yeah. So I am gonna pour it in here. Check this out. This is an IPA. It doesn't. When I initially smelled it, when I cracked it open, it wasn't super flowery. But neither was the IPA I had yesterday. A lot of carbonation though. I mean, check out that head. And I didn't really try to pour it slowly. Maybe it's because of coming out of the can. I'm not too sure. Not a lot of sediment on the bottom of it. You can't really see in there. Actually, nice as you see it in the bottom of the can. I really like this design, as far as the way you can actually drink it out of the can instead of just having to have that little area to drink out of it, right there. But this is an IPA. Like yesterday's beer. This is an American IPA style. Come on, amateur pour. Oh, please. Yes, I know. We love our carbonation. I bet you do. I don't know. Maybe it's a Viking thing. So, I smell more malts in this than anything else. I have a feeling, even though this is labeled as an American IPA, it's more influenced from the British IPAs, which aren't as hoppy as like West Coast IPAs in the U.S. Even though last night that one right back, oh, you can't see it right now. All right, here I put it on the shelf there, Saf, because I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get another bottle of this. But that did say it towed itself as a West Coast IPA, which it really wasn't in whatever classification that we have here in the U.S. As I get beer on my nose. You know, this is only about 6.5%. It's actually much smoother, and there's not a lot of bitterness to it. There's a hint of bitterness to it, but it's not extremely like over hopped. The color itself, this is definitely a filtered beer. Last night's Norwegian beer was unfiltered. All the stuff that they did at their brewery last night was unfiltered. So this one has definitely been a little bit different from that. You can't pour, and you couldn't work at a bar. Right, I work at Brewfest all the time. I don't know. I think if I ever worked at a bar, I probably would drink myself out of a job. So that would be a bad thing. This is very smooth, like I said. Not a lot of hop bitterness, and there's not a lot of hop forwardness to it. Again, I think this is definitely very similar to the beer we had last night. But, I mean, the color's a little bit darker, I think. If you didn't watch last night's episode, you always can go back on the videos on demand. I always do highlights for every episode. You laughed because I would drink myself out of a job. Hey, I got to know my limits, man. I don't want to go off and go crazy with that. But I do think that this IPA, like last night's, is very influenced to the any British IPAs as you'll get. Very malty, and kind of smooth. And at 6.5, it's not necessarily that high in alcohol, and you don't really, obviously don't taste it in this. But you can see the head is kind of dissipating right there a little bit. So maybe it was just a crappy pour. Amateur hour here. So I don't really taste anything unique in this. I mean, there isn't. I really can't tell what type of hops are in it. I wasn't also able to find. It looks really cloudy. I don't know. It's clearer than last night. And you kind of can see my hand through it. I mean, again, this is something I enjoy. British IPAs, to be honest with you. I think I've had my fill of West Coast IPAs. I'm becoming a big fan of New England IPAs, like from Trillium and Heady Topper. But this is definitely one of those things that I could sit down for a while and just kind of enjoy. Like last night, I actually think I liked the one last night a little bit better, so I probably would give this about 3.5. I would definitely drink this again. It's not that cloudy. Is it? I don't know. Russ, what do you think?
It's hard to tell if it's cloudy or if it's just sort of more of a darker amber color.
Yeah, I don't know. If I don't have a smaller glass, I would always pour it in to see if it was. What's up, Drew? How are you, sir? I would actually give this a 3.5. I really liked the one last night a lot better. I do like the craft can art though on this. You can see the Viking. I'm guessing that's a Viking right here with some. I'm guessing dragons. Saf, you can tell me if I'm wrong. You're the one who gave me the beer. No, wait, look at it. It's very scaled. It's got scales on it, or maybe they're fish. I don't know. Right, see the scales, and I think it's going in, and that's the heads of it. I don't know, maybe, but it's the can artwork is pretty decent. Again, I can't find this here, so again, thank you, Sathras, for bringing this to me at PAX East. Traveling all the way from Norway to drop this off. But I would definitely give this a 3.5. I would definitely drink this again, but you know, I actually enjoyed the one last night a lot more than this one. Not that this is a bad beer, yeah, but it's just me. Same as used on Viking ships. All right, well there we go. So, dragons. I'm guessing, but yeah. So if you guys can find it in your area, I don't know if you can find it, or maybe you can have Sath send some to you guys when we have we set up the beer trade. We have a call tomorrow with a beer exchange app on your phone. Permit? Oh, you should be able to post a link there, Sath, if you want to do post something. If not, I'm sure Ray or Ratchers here or Monica can actually give you permission to do that. But this is a kind of one of those beers that if you can't get it in your area, obviously, then you probably will be able to get it from our beer trade. We have a call tomorrow at noon with the beer exchange app that literally has a way for us to do beer exchanges across the world. To discuss a partnership with them, which would be kind of fun to do. This way, you guys have beers you want to try in your area, and we can ship you beers from our areas. But that's basically it. But if you're interested in trying this, maybe you can work on a deal with Sathras. You know, he's willing to trade. So I brought him some really good beers too. A little more about the pop top change. So they want to know, can you explain a little bit more about the pop top change and the reason why it's better or maybe worse than the other option?
Yeah, so that design was originally, I think, released by Budweiser in China, I want to say, for like some big sporting events. They were selling cans like that at a stadium, or it might have been, or I could be wrong, or it might have been Brazil. I don't know, one of the two. It was in another country originally. It came to the U.S. a few years ago. Crown partnered with Sly Fox Brewing Company outside of Philadelphia. They released the first U.S. craft beer in a can of that pop top. And they started selling at the Phillies stadium, so the baseball stadium. So they didn't have to supply cups to people buying the beer. And you could still, smell the beer, provide a little more aroma. Instead of small, typical pop top that they have. And it's actually spread out. You see breweries all over the U.S. I wouldn't say it's a huge amount, but there's definitely been probably 30 or 40 that have released beers with that type of style of opening.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the benefits certainly are if you go to the beach or something like that, you don't have to bring a glass if you're a big fan of being able to smell the beer and all of that. So there's that. I think it's a bit of a novelty. So there's always that. I think it's kind of a cool thing that people aren't used to, so they're willing to check it out. It's interesting too, a little side story of that. New Jersey had a state law that prohibited any sort of removable lid or pop, the way the old beer cans used to be with the ring tab, because people would just throw them on the beach and throw them all over. So it was littering all the time. So they made a law against it. Sly Fox released beers with those pop tops in New Jersey, and they had to pull them all off the shelf because they were considered illegal. So it's an interesting little.
Are you serious?
So, yeah.
You know, I guess I can see that, because years and years ago, the Jersey Shore used to be just disgusting. You would go and you'd find like syringes and all sorts of stuff, and they've done a good job cleaning it up over the last 2 decades. So, but the fact that they made it a law. I mean, we've actually done some I guess news on weird beer laws. Like, for instance, Pennsylvania finally changed their beer laws about a month ago. So now we are able to buy beers not just in cases or kegs, which is great. Baron Bar, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it. Have a good night, man. Sleep well. I know it's late where you are. So we'll talk soon. So do you want to do the beer review then? Which one?
I'll do my best.
All right.
A bit of a rookie about it.
You'll probably do it better than me. So.
Yeah. So I should preface this that I'm a big beer fan, obviously, but I'm also a big fan of craft beer can art and design. So once in a while, the two come together really well, and I get pretty geeked out on a brewery that does a really good job with the design work, but also brewing good beer to put inside the can. So I chose to review a beer from Rheingeist, is in Cincinnati.
Oh.
And they kind of have a really cool sort of motif with all of their cans. They kind of all follow a similar look, kind of the same different bars at the bottom, different colors, basically. Pretty, I would say it's pretty, it's not too crazy, but it works really well. So it's kind of a cool thing. They kind of have a cool story behind their name. The design work's all done by a design studio down in Texas called Helms Workshop, which is also done Modern Times and a few other big craft breweries in the US. They've done artwork and design for them. So Rheingeist actually, in Cincinnati, there's a area of the city called Over the Rhine, and it was traditionally a place where a lot of German immigrants settled. So kind of took on that nickname, but it's a neighborhood in the city, and that's where the brewery is located. And Rheingeist means ghost of the Rhine.
Oh, wow.
That's why the logo has a bit of the little ghost guy there. So pretty cool. This is the Mosaic Pale Ale. So it's a single hop take on a pale ale. Mosaic is a pretty popular hop right now. It's produces a lot of tropical flavors, a lot of different fruit flavors and things like that. Kind of the stuff that's pretty popular, kind of trending in craft beer. So this is their, it's just a single hop pale ale. So poured it in a glass. It's pretty clean, pretty clear. Different than a lot of beers. I live up in Maine. A lot of our big hoppy beers are pretty cloudy and unfiltered. But this one's pretty clean. And it has a lot of tropical fruit aroma, which is probably what you're going after with that type of hop. And it definitely is a pretty easy drinking 5.5% pale ale. So not too bad I got to work tomorrow, so don't want to get too crazy. But very clean, a lot of great, the flavors from that particular hop variety really come out. So
what was the hop variety you said that was in it before?
Mosaic.
Mosaic. Oh, that's because it's on the Mosaic Pale. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you'll notice in a lot of beers that have like a Mosaic hop, the label on the beer is also like take on a Mosaic art, Mosaic tiles, things like that. So you see a lot of them. So yeah, it's a great beer. And actually, this is one of my favorite breweries. Had a chance to visit them a few months back in Cincinnati. So I will say they definitely kind of have the full package. They have a great brewery. It's an awesome experience to go and check out the brewery, but also they do a great job with their design. And then all the beers they brew are just pretty top notch. So I like to give every beer pretty much a 4 because I think it takes a lot of work to put a beer together and get it on the market, and it takes a bit of balls to get out there and have people reviewing your beer. So, but it's kind of like Uber drivers for the most part. I tend to give them a 4 as well. But this one's solid. It's just definitely a solid 4. I wish I had more of these cans. I only have one, so I need to find a way to get more of them. They don't distribute where I am.
Where do they distribute from?
They're literally only in the state of Ohio. So you pretty much need to know somebody in Ohio. I have a buddy of mine in Cincinnati who's been pretty kind and generous about sending beers from this brewery out to me once in a while, and I send him some stuff from Maine. But yeah, it's kind of cool that they are staying local. They're getting big, but they're staying local, kind of going the route of like, some of the bigger brewers like Surly that kind of stays pretty local, and
sure,
bigger brewers that, they just want to produce as much beer as they can for the local crowd and not get too crazy with distribution.
Well, I think the same thing with like Tired Hands by us and even like Trillium. They don't distribute that far. They do something well and they do something close, and they don't necessarily get out of their local area, which makes people want to get their beer more. And maybe that's, I don't think it would be I mean, it's a selling point, especially if the beer is good. If beer isn't good and then they're not distributing to places it's hard to get, well, that's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think you did a better job than I did. So don't worry.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Nothing wrong with that. I actually saw there was an article about another Rheingeist beer that was released recently, and I can't remember the name of it. I'd have to scroll through my phone where I look at all the beer articles for like discussion. When we have topics, but you have it. Yes, that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. That's the one.
Yeah, so you can kind of see their take on the design. It all kind of stays pretty similar. Yeah, these guys just do a great job with all that. So Knowledge is a big double IPA they just released. I wouldn't say it's like a New England IPA. It's not like super hazy or anything like that, but it's just, pretty awesome beer. It's like kind of like a big tropical kind of malty, I don't know, it was very good. I wish I had more of those as well. So
I got to see how I can get some, and that's one of the reasons why we're actually trying to start a beer trade on the channel in the first place. Is that, we have guys all over the place, and people from all over the place who are interested in beer and can access these local places. Like Ratchesphere, he's up in Vermont. So he was able to go and get me a bunch of pretty cool Vermont beers when we were coming down to, when I went up to PAX East, as well as like Sath and whatnot. So, the ability to be able to sit there and say, hey, I got this from our area, like Tired Hands or Chamonix Creek, or, a lot of the local breweries that don't go outside of the state, or maybe they only go to New Jersey, if nothing else, outside of Pennsylvania, maybe they go to New Jersey, maximum maybe New York, here, I will send you this if you send me whatever interesting beer you love from the brewery close by. Which is a great, fantastic method of kind of exchanging the love of beer, especially when it's hard for sometimes you people to get up to areas and get those beers and then bring it back. It's sometimes expensive too. So, so we met a long time ago. Like we were when we started the show, we tried to figure out exactly how long ago it was, but it was. I mean, craft cans. It started in it was like 2006, if I'm not mistaken, right? 2009.
2009 was part of the first iteration of the website. I think we might have met probably about 5 years ago. I think maybe it would have been.
Was it? Yeah,
it was. Yeah. So, like I said, it's a bit apropos. I mean, I think I happened to be in Denver for a conference for work, and my real job is not beer related, unfortunately, but I was out in Denver for a conference, ended up at Oscar Blues, happened to be there at the exact same time as you. We ended up talking. I think we had a few folks that were doing a tour with Chad, their marketing guy, and I think you just happened to be there, so we ended up talking and keeping in touch. So kind of the way the craft beer world works, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about connections, right? I mean, and kind of sometimes kind of fake, because I was there to do just a quick. At the time I was running a site called Hop and Kettle, and that kind of went by the wayside after I was trying to produce a small clips of series, right, for because like you, I was there actually for work, so whenever I get around to places, whenever I used to travel, I don't travel anymore now, thankfully, kind of. I do miss it, but it's, when I did travel to get to the places where, get to breweries where I was, traveling, it was always a good treat, so, whoa. My camera just flashed, and now I'm a lot clearer. You still there?
Yeah, sorry. I was
Oh, all right.
I was trying to change the
I was like,
something
oh,
quiet.
what happened? I didn't lose connection, did I?
Yeah, no, clarity
we're
doesn't happen
good.
when you're drinking. It usually goes the other way.
Yeah, seriously. Normally you get a little fuzzy eyed, but no, now I'm a lot more clear. I'm all right. Good,
All right.
good for me.
Glad I could help you out there.
Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. But yeah, like, because I was actually up there to do like a short, like, video clips of the brewery, the tap room, and kind of walk through exactly what it is. And generally, what I did was try to keep it to like 10 minutes, so guys like us who travel could go to the site, watch a short clip, say, I'm going to Denver. Where can I go from Denver to go see? And they can pull up all these clips of different shows. Viking beer makes you see everything. What's in that Viking beer, dude? Seriously. So, but yeah, that was the idea. But it kind of fell on its face because of a few things with Google, and which I'm not going to go into because it's going to get me angry. But yeah, I was up there doing that, and we kind of ran into it. I still have some of the clips from that day where the head brewer and I, while we were doing a tour together, we ended up, he was pouring that one beer he had out of a barrel. I forget what it was, but it was like a red wine aged something.
Yeah.
Not Old Chub, but it was something. But it was just glorious. I could find a clip, but maybe we can do that later in the show.
Yeah, I will say for Oscar Blues, most folks that know Oscar Blues that aren't in Colorado, probably kind of just see the cans around, and they kind of attribute like brewery to just kind of producing like some pretty straightforward beers that are in cans. You visit that brewery and go to Tasty Weasel tap room there, and they've got some crazy stuff going on there. So, and they release a lot of cans just at the brewery there that never make it outside the town of Longmont. So definitely cool brewery to visit for sure. Definitely a lot of beers you can try there that you'll never see in cans anywhere. So cool place to check out if anybody's ever out in Colorado.
I think that they had just released or were releasing Deviant Dales when we were there, if I remember correctly. Because I remember.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're still doing that one in cans. I don't
Really?
know if they moved away from it because that style of double IPA is kind of fading away.
Speaking of Old Chub, hey, what's up, Papa Chubs? How are you, man? Good to see you, man. So, give me a little bit of a background. I mean, you started the site in 2009, but what was kind of like the inspiration for it? I mean,
it's a great question. It was slightly spontaneous. My brother lives over in Sweden. I'll try to keep this story short so it'll get too boring. So I'll attribute the website almost entirely to Oscar Blues 1050, which is that big Russian Imperial Stout they do. And they put that in cans, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years ago, maybe for the first time. And I remember being on a work trip somewhere, and I managed to like come across a 4-pack of this big Russian Imperial Stout in a can, and the can looks like a motor oil can, and it was just kind of I was in a craft beer at the time, and I was like never expecting to see a beer like that in a can, and I just remember being kind of taken back by it. And then I started noticing a few more beers here and there in cans, and I think everybody was trying to run a beer blog at that time and do beer reviews, and I was just trying to go for a different angle of like, okay, I started seeing these pretty cool beers in cans. What if I just focused the entire website on canned craft beer? And it was funny because my brother and I threw something together, put the framework for the site together. And like within about 2 weeks started getting emails from a population I didn't even know existed that was really into canned beers. And that was all of the folks that collected beer cans in like the 70s and things like that.
Really?
And they were all starting to follow the website because they didn't realize that other than like all the different Budweiser football cans and things like that, like nothing was really changing in the canned beer world, and it hadn't been changing since so much of the breweries in the U.S. sort of consolidated down to a really small amount. So now that craft breweries are starting to can, all these collectors are coming out of the woodwork again and trying to figure out if they wanted to start collecting beer cans again now that craft brewers are putting beer in cans. So these guys started to like email me, and there's a bit of a I would say it's a pretty sizable sort of like subgroup of people that really, really are still into beer cans and collecting beer cans. And there's a magazine out there, and there's a website for it.
Really?
That's just, yeah. So that kind of gave me some inspiration. I was like, all right, cool. I'll keep this going. Here's these people that are like being really, friendly and positive about this, and saying like, oh, it's really cool to see breweries canning their beer again. And I was thinking like, okay, I was after like people that love craft beer and were interested in what was in the can and not so much like just collecting the cans. But it kind of steamrolled from there. More and more breweries came on board. More and more breweries were putting more effort into the design of the cans, and a lot of different styles are going into craft beer cans. And, usually it was, if you were putting your beer in a can back in the day, you went with a safe bet, like an amber ale or something like that, you knew you could sell, wasn't too risky. And it was kind of boring for a while. But I think, once brewers started to realize that consumers were kind of cool with cans and there was a lot of benefits to cans, they started putting different other styles in cans. So it went from there. So I kind of kept up with the site, and we put together a database so that people could kind of search what was in cans all over the country. Did a bunch of reviews for a few years, and then I kind of ran out of energy when it came to keeping up with that. But yeah, so it was cool. I mean, it was a lot of announcements of breweries that were starting to can, and people were pretty excited about it. So yeah, it was for 6 or 7 years, I guess. I kind of kept up as much as I could. And then I think one day I realized that every brewery was starting to can, and there was no way that I was going to keep a database up to date. And then on top of that, there was all the mobile canners and all the breweries that were throwing stickers on cans, and so it was kind of a lost cause.
What was the for can collector? What was the enthusiasm behind actually collecting the cans? Was it especially the older cans, right? I mean, they came to you and they said, you started this whole site about the new can revolution, right? I mean, but what was their idea around it? I mean, you also wrote a book on craft art. Was it the artwork on the can? Or was it just the style of can that they had from back in the day?
Oh man, it's a good question. I wish we had somebody that was more of an expert on collecting. Okay. I would say that for some people it was, like anything, a testament to different places you've been.
Right.
You went to, Nebraska and you brought back a can from a local brewery. And then that all kind of died out when there was 2,000 breweries in the U.S. and they consolidated down to like 45 or 50. Yeah. So it was the same cans year after year. So people kind of stopped collecting them. But yeah, I think some of it's just, hey, I got a can from where I visited, or somebody sent me a can. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the same thing now. I think you see a lot of people, and even people that are younger, that, kind of keep the cans that they like. Or like in your back shelf there, you've got some of the bottles that you probably liked, or, kind of a trophy of some sort,
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the one I have back here. The one I like was the 10th anniversary from Stone Brewing Company, and then most recently I drank Clown Shoes, which has
all right,
the Hammer of the Beast. I don't know if that's its label.
Those guys are that's some great. We've got some great art.
Yeah, the artwork on that is, I mean, if you talk about artwork, that toaster.
Well, they had one that got him into a bit of trouble, but one was called Muffin Top. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I think I have. But what was it that actually got people, breweries into getting cans, starting canning again? It wasn't, and I think it was Oscar Blues who kind of jump started that revolution again for cans, wasn't it? I mean, I think if I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Their story is pretty interesting. I mean, I think they responded to like a fax ad. If you know what that is, where it's like people just spam fax machines with like an advertisement for something like a cruise or something like that. And I think, I wouldn't say it was a spam, but it was an advertisement that got sent to them through a fax. You could probably Dale on the phone or something like that. He could tell you the whole story. But there's a small company up in Canada called Cask, and they pretty much designed the first small version of a canning line, basically. Before that, I mean, everything was pretty big and industrial. So they produced a pretty small canning machine, I guess, not really a line, but it was an opportunity for a small brewer to put their product in a can instead of a bottle. So there was a brewery in the Yukon, in the Yukon territory, that actually was the first to actually get one of these machines and start canning. And Dale at Oscar Blues was pretty much the second one who was receptive to it. So they were, they're usually credited with being the first craft brewery to put their beer in cans. And so they had this like little, basically a station where you filled 2 cans manually.
Right.
And then you went over to a seamer and you seamed 1 can at a time. And seaming, you mean you're actually putting the top on the can manually, like almost like the opposite of when you open a can with a can opener.
Right.
So it's very time consuming, very so a bit of a labor of love. And I think the story goes, and you can probably read it online, a lot of places, that people kind of laugh at the whole idea of it. And I think that was what kind of drove them to do it. It's kind of like, okay, well,
we'll show you, right?
We'll see what happens. And and I think it kind of caught fire. It's a great market for cans. Colorado is outdoorsy. There's a lot of marketing opportunity with cans. So I think it was one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't call it dumb luck, but it definitely worked out for them. And a lot of things came together well. So.
But what's also the lining in a can as well? They were, wasn't it, I forget what, who, was it Ball that created the there's like a lining in there. It's not just the aluminum anymore, but because you won't get that tinny taste from it.
Yeah, so every can, it's probably been this way for a long time, probably last 20 years. So
right.
It's the same with like a soup can or anything like that. You can see like there's a kind of water-based polymer lining inside it. It's like, it looks like almost like it's actually sprayed on when they produce the can. So it's sprayed on and it hardens, and it basically just protects the beer from touching the aluminum.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of funny. A lot of people early on or years ago were very dismissive of craft beer in cans because they didn't want the beer to taste like metal. But the only time you're really going to taste metal is if you're sitting there drinking it from the can. You're putting your mouth on the top of the can, which is aluminum. But if you pour it in a glass, I would say that one of the biggest benefits is, that beer's taste. It stays fresher. It's in a can. It's not no lights actually hitting any of that. The seal on a can, if it's done right, with a good canning line, is actually tighter than a bottle cap, so it keeps oxygen out. All the stuff you probably read when you're reading about the benefits of cans, it's pretty legit for the most part, as long as you have a good canning line and you can can well.
Okay.
But yeah, the lining on it it's sprayed on, and I think there was a bit of a, I think back in the day, I think maybe there wasn't a liner that was as good, so you did have probably some crappy beer that tasted like metal in some steel cans back like they had back in the day. So
and I was actually one of those people. I remember when I saw, I think it was I can't remember how long ago it was, but seeing at Oscar Blues for the first time in a can. I was in New York City, and I forget why we were up in New York City. It might have been my bachelor party, or maybe it was something else. But it was I remember someone said, "You'll try this," and it was in a can. I was like, "Are you serious? Why would I actually drink that out of a can? It's gonna taste bad. Why would I do that?" And I remember cracking that thing open and just like, "Ooh, what the hell?" Taking a sip, and it was like, "Wow, that was just amazing," And that was the kind of the turning point for me. And again, I think that was maybe over 10 or 11 years ago, where I remember seeing this can in the beer and tasting it, and it was just like, huh. And then, like you said, everybody started canning, and there was a lot of things that were just being produced by people, like solid beers in cans. And because of that, I guess because of that lining, that you don't get that tinny flavor from it, or if any.
Yeah, I think that lining has been around for a while. I think people just didn't. Part of me thinks like if you're drinking Bud in a can or Coors Light in a can,
right?
Probably didn't really care so much about anything about the beer. You're probably just like, okay, this is a cheap way for me to
get hammered.
12-pack, and it's easy for me to carry home. so I don't think there was much of a concern about it. I think it was when the craft beer world started to question, whether or not there was legitimacy around cans, that all came into question. So, but for the most part, I think there was years of people getting pissed off when a brewery was like, "Hey guys, we're going to put our best-selling IPA in a can," and people were like, "I'm done drinking your beer because why would you ruin my beer and put it in a can?" And now you read the forum posts and people are like, "Oh, guess which beer is going in a can now?" People are like very excited about it. So it was a bit of a flip-flop in the industry, because I think, or at least within the craft beer geeks of the world for a while, where not all of them were not all that accepting of cans. So
yeah, I mean,
but now they are for the most part, and it's pretty much, you see it everywhere. It's pretty ubiquitous.
Oh yeah, so. I mean, I was actually at River Horse Brewing Company today, which is a local brewing company in Ewing, and they only can one of their beers, which is they actually gave me a sample of
man, that's beers. A sexy looking hippo right there.
Yeah, seriously, and it even says on here, it says you want it, which is kind of funny. But it's their summer blonde, and so I was able to actually watch their mobile canning line, because canning an actual canning line like that, it costs a ton of money, and they don't can, like, they only can, this is one beer, which is their summer blonde. This is their one of their flagship beers. I don't know if you guys can see it. There might be some reflection from the light here, but like River Horse Summer Blonde here. But that hippo is on every single one of their cans. But I mean, it's interesting seeing some of the actual artwork that people put the time in to put on these cans. You know what I mean? You're used to seeing originally, before craft cans actually came around, just the big giant Bud logo or Miller, but you actually started writing a whole. You have one book that's out already, right?
Yeah.
And then you're in the middle of writing the second one right now.
Yeah. So I kind of, like I said before, I kind of geek out on can design. I mean, I love label design pretty much, product design in general, but I'm definitely a big fan of like well done can art and design. And it's kind of funny. I mean, I think if you look at if you look at a lot of older craft beer cans or can beers in general, you have the same logo on both sides. And that was the idea, is like any way that the can gets switched around on a shelf, it's still facing the consumer.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the way things used to be. And eventually they kind of changed a bit to the point where, people are using that entire 360 degrees of the can to come up with a pretty cool kind of billboard of, the product, and kind of giving it some character and all of that. So there are some amazing artists out there. And I think one of the cool things about craft beer is that typically, the people that start a craft brewery these days, especially, but over the last 5 or 6 years, they're creative types. They've got creative friends. They've got a creative sister or brother. They got somebody they know who's an artist. And they probably lean on those people first and foremost when it comes to like, hey, can you help us out with our tap room? Can you help us out with our logo design and things like that? And they tend to be the people they lean on a lot of the times for the designs for their cans and their or the bottles or whatever it is. So it's been kind of cool to, research and kind of dive into that world and to get to know more about the people that are way behind the scenes. They're not brewing the beer. They don't own the brewery,
right,
but they're the people that are giving all those beers kind of an actual identity and helping the brewery kind of get their, name out there, get their brand out there. So over the years, some of these guys have just become really, really good at it. And some breweries, I mean, are just pretty much kicking ass when it comes to like label art and design. And then there's actually some folks like Helms down in Texas that, they've been working with multiple breweries because I think they've really got a name for themselves. So I have a couple of designs to kind of fish some out.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That are kind of give you, can give people a bit of an idea of how kind of creative folks are getting. I mean, like I said before, like I love Ryan Geist. I just love the simplicity of this kind of thing. It's just something that you recognize the logo or the label pretty easily.
Seth was saying that it looked like a skull, and he didn't know whether or not he would actually want to drink something with a skull on it.
Yeah, well, if it's got 3 X's or a skull, it usually means that it's good. So, but yeah, so this actually can't really tell, but like quite a few breweries have gone with like kind of a matte coloring too, so it's not super shiny, which is kind of a cool thing. Hard to tell that, but let's see. Fort George Brewery is out in Astoria, Oregon, which is where Goonies was filmed a long time ago.
Was it really?
But Fort George works with a kind of a magazine design company called Plasm that does their artwork. And they do a really good job of kind of like using the entire can as a canvas. So this is called Big Guns. It's a session IPA, but it has this pretty sweet hop who's riding a tank and shooting hops out of the barrel of the gun.
Oh, Jesus.
So when you come up, you think, and the hop also has several tattoos. You have to look really closely, but they actually are of different label images that they've had on different cans. So it's kind of a cool kind of homage to the different beers that they brew. So this hop, I don't know, it's a crazy looking thing, but it's actually pretty cool. They did cool.
Looks like a wolf. It has like teeth and like.
Oh yeah, no, it's also got a little tiny baseball hat there. I don't know what that's about, but that's a cool one.
How do you fit that on your head? No idea.
Burial Beer Company. Hopefully people can see this. This is hard. Burial Beer Company is down in Asheville, North Carolina, which is another beer mecca. So if you're ever looking to visit a town with a lot of breweries, Asheville is one that should be on your list. But they've got an amazing artist that does all their stuff. It's kind of like a bit macabre and kind of dark and things like that. But each design has two different sides to it. And one's a little bit more popular than the other. So they do some cool stuff, pretty intense artwork that their artist does. He's a pretty well-known artist in his own right. Trying to think of his name. David Paul Seymour is the artist. So he does all of that. So cool stuff. Fort George also did a pretty straightforward beer. It's called Plaid, which is plaid, but hey, it's gonna catch your eye when you're walking around and trying to figure out what beer you want. War Elephant. If you want some pretty badass artwork that could be on
Holy shit, that's pretty kick-ass.
On a metal album. Pretty decked out elephant ready to go to war.
So right up Toaster's the thing. He loved the Hammer of the Beast. So.
Yeah, no, this is pretty much akin to that. This is Rushing Duck up in North New York. One of my favorites up in Massachusetts is Treehouse Brewing, and I will always love. They have a label called Juice Machine, which has a little robot. Big, juicy New England IPA.
That robot kind of looks like the one from Lost in Space.
Does a little bit, yeah.
Like the original. I think maybe it's Lost in Space, isn't it? Or I'd have to look that up.
But pretty simple. I mean, even if it's a sticker on a can and not like the printed artwork like some of these other ones, super cool. I just love the fact that people are getting, illustrators and artists and different folks from different mediums when it comes to design to do label art. And sometimes it just works really well. You've got a great beer in a can, you've got a great design, like I said before, and sometimes it comes together and it's just makes you happy.
But is that what kind of influenced you to actually go and start writing doing a book on those? Yeah,
well, the book came from a bad habit of keeping the cans that I liked. And we had a basement at the time that had a bit of a man cave in it, and I was just kind of keeping the cans that I really liked on a shelf, and then I had more shelves than I knew what to do with. And then I was like, you know what, I should pitch the idea to a couple publishers and see if the idea of a book about just the artwork and not about the beer itself might, be of interest. And I got really lucky. There's a publisher in Pennsylvania that was totally behind the idea. I gave them some sample images of cans that had pretty creative labels and things like that, and they were all for it. So the first book had about 600 different cans at the time. It was every can I could get my hand on from around the country. Just kind of told the story about the design and a little bit about the artist or whatever the label was trying to get across. A lot of regional breweries have names of beers that, if you're from, the East Coast, you probably don't know why a beer was called whatever it is in Wyoming or something like that. It might be something that was a local landmark or something like that. So the idea was to put a book together that kind of told the story about all these different cans. So if you were looking through it, you could just kind of learn a little about a beer you might have had 100 times or a beer you've never seen before. So kind of a coffee table thing, just kind of flip through.
So does it actually have like, because you can see some of the, I think it's a few pages of the book behind you and how it's actually.
Yeah. So that's just the cover artwork. So it had just a bunch of cans in the back of the book and things like that. But so this came out 3 years ago. So in craft beer years, that's probably like 30 years. Because every can design has changed. Every brewery has released 100 more cans and things like that. So the next book has about 1,200 cans in it from all 50 states. And there's about 450 breweries featured. So I'm kind of knee deep in that and kind of researching and trying to get the information about all the different artists and stuff like that. Kind of a little bit different than that book, trying to provide a little more detail about the actual artists, kind of, have some full page spreads that are just one artist's work and things like that. So that book was, like I said, every can I could get at the time. So, from the original Dale's Pale Ale can and, up to whatever I could find on my drive down to the publisher for the photo shoot. So,
oh, wow.
So a lot of things have changed in the industry since then. A lot more cans have been released and a lot of designs have been updated and, a lot of better designs are out there.
So the book itself, when you open it up, how's the layout? Is it just like individual cans? Because I know most of the people probably have not seen the book. So I don't know if do you happen to have a copy, right?
I don't think I do. I might somewhere. I'm really bad at that. I don't think I have a copy of it. I think I gave a copy away that I had to a friend of mine who was visiting, and I said I'll just end up getting another copy, and I need to get one. It's done by region. So it starts out like in New England, and there's about 8 or 10 regions across the country that it's broken into. So chapters are just based on region, and then it's alphabetical by brewery. And then each brewery, whatever cans I had, it just tells who the artist was, but then a little bit about the design. So it does not talk about the actual beer in the can. I leave that.
But it's all about the art, right?
It's all about the artwork. And it's just, for me, it was just kind of trying to tell a story that usually isn't told. Trying to talk a little bit more about the people that do that, the design work, because everyone usually talks about the beer itself, which is totally fine. I'm not an expert on what's good and what's bad in beer. I like beer. Drink a lot of it and I like talking about it, but I'm not an expert and couldn't tell you like what IPA is better than another IPA. It's just my opinion. So I wanted to just focus on the design work and kind of showcase that.
Well, that's one of the rules of the show. It's your opinion, right? When you drink beer, that's the whole thing. If someone has a different opinion, that's fine. So Joe actually had a question. What is your favorite canned beer artist?
Oh man, that's a great question. I've got a few that I think are awesome. I do really, really like this guy who does the stuff for Burial. And you can actually check out his stuff online. His name's David Paul Seymour. He's a pretty well-known artist. I do like the stuff from Fort George, which is the other designs I had. The stuff from Treehouse is a guy named Dave Keever, I think. I have to look it up, but man, I have a lot. I guess there's a lot of talented folks out there. It's more the breweries. I don't know all the artist names offhand because some of them use several different artists. But if I had to choose like 3 breweries that I think just do a really good job with design work, I would definitely go with Burial. And then in Chicago, there's a brewery called Half Acre, which does a pretty awesome job. And they've got
I've had some of their beers.
Yeah, they've got a guy named Phineas. I'm trying to think of his last name, but he's their artist, and he does all their design work. He's actually like a full-time artist for the brewery.
Oh wow!
So he does a lot of stuff inside the brewery as well in their tap room. So he does all their label art. Man, that's a great question. I wish I had researched my.
I didn't even think about it. The guys in the channel were asking it, so Yeah. But he also asked. You recently had Tired Hands, right? So
yeah.
Do you like the new Tired Hands artwork?
So I was there and I actually asked who did their artwork because I have a few of their cans in the book that's coming out, and they may use a couple artists, I think, but somebody told me that the owner Gene is the guy who does a lot of their artwork. So I've seen a couple of different things that they did. I've seen like kind of like they've done a lot of things that have a similar look, and then I think they've done some things that are a little bit different. They use a different artist, but I was told that Gene, I guess the owner, I don't know, has done a lot of their art and design. But they have some other cans that have come out that are pretty awesome too. And I don't know the artist who does it, but I've seen some of the images.
So. Mike Illustrated does the art for Joe. You're saying for Tired Hands? Oh, for Tired Hands. Okay, Mike Illustrated. I've never heard of who that is. I mean, is that like a well-known artist in Pennsylvania? And welcome, Sin. How are you? Thanks for coming and joining the channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to click that follow button, man. We have a beer talk show. A little plug, sorry. Little talk show. Beer talk show we do every single Wednesday. And today we're actually here on a special event here, hanging out with Russ, my friend from who owns craftcans.com, and who is a beer art, can art. I'm going to call you an expert, Russ. But hey, whatever. You published 2 books. You're publishing a second book. That makes you an expert, right? So,
yeah, I don't know. I am still. I need to reach out to this guy Gene at Tired Hands and see if I can get some more input for the second book. So if somebody knows anything, feel free to share it. That would be helpful.
He said that the For Tired Hands, it's an Instagram tag, Mike Illustrated. That's what Joe says here. I'm personally a big fan of the Trogs' new artwork.
Oh yeah, they did. That's interesting because they've used that. I don't know. I think Imagine's an agency who they've worked with on that. But they have a pretty good like across their entire lineup has a pretty unique kind of look that you're going to notice anything on the shelf and know it's Trogs. So yeah, that was a pretty cool thing. They kind of definitely made a big shift. I remember visiting that brewery when they were like a bit of a hole in the wall in Harrisburg, and getting pretty excited when Nugget Nectar was released. And now, man, they've blown up now that they moved to Hershey and they have a bunch more beers and things like that. Somebody told me that Hershey spot is pretty awesome too.
I've heard it. A friend of mine who now works for a Cape May Brewing Company, the sign right here. He actually used to work for Trogs, and he said the place was amazing out there in Hershey. So I haven't got a chance to visit it myself yet, but eventually I'm gonna get out there. But yeah, when it comes to craft can art, I gotta say, the guys, and I drink a lot of their beer, but I actually don't even have any examples here. I gave my last County Line IPA to Saf at PAX so he can bring it back home, and oh wait, no, I think I did give it to that, and then also to Rochester, to Drew. But their artwork at Neshaminy Creek, their artist is amazing. It's always something just so wild on the can,
Yeah.
It's, you have like, for some reason, something's always throwing up on there too. So I'm not really too sure why. I mean, Jeremy's a good friend of mine. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go ask him one day. It's like, it's not even just on your cans. It's also on every beer you have. But something's always puking. Why? Why is it? But I don't know. Maybe it's just like what they do with the artwork or the artist's preference or something like that. He's very punk rock. He actually owns a record label as well and does a lot of I guess promoting of punk bands on his record label. And so maybe that's it. I don't know. But I don't know. I have their John can and a few other ones in the next book coming out. Pretty cool. Whoever their illustrator is does a great job. Yeah, I mean, I feel like some folks, man, they put a ton of effort into a can design, and I would imagine that most people, when they drink beer, finish it. They pour it. I mean, most people, maybe not all, but will pour a beer into a glass, or they'll just drink it, and they'll just throw it in recycling, and they never really look at it. Right. But it's amazing when you start talking to artists and people that do the design, or like ask them a quick question about, tell me a little about the design. And they're like, oh, I don't know if you noticed, but the number 38 is, really small here and it represents blah, blah, blah. And it's like, they have a lot of imagery, a lot of things that represent other things. And you're like, who is ever going to notice that unless they're nerdy enough to write a book about the design? I feel like so much of it goes unnoticed. So it's kind of cool when you get to tell a little bit of that story. But like, yeah, then a Neshaminy Creek like that, John can, I mean, there's a ton of stuff going on that label. With like
Liberty Bell and all this stuff, and it's a winter beer. So no, am I thinking of the right beer? I think it
Uh,
is.
John, I don't know if it's. Let me. I can check real
Juicy
fast. See if
ale
it's.
with nugget.
Let's see. Hold
But
on.
yeah, you should probably talk a little bit about what the word John means in Philadelphia slang there too.
Well, actually, I think I can probably find out because it's actually John in the Chamonix beer. Let's see, because it's dot 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 juicy ale with nugget.
Yeah.
That's what John means.
Well, John in Philly means like check out
Oh,
this,
oh,
like check out this thing, like.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, because I've actually used the terminology myself.
So
Being
that's kind of cool. There's a little story behind that as well. There's the acronym that they're using, but then it's like a representation of kind of Philly slang. So pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's a guy. I think it's Ben Franklin riding the Liberty Bell. I'm looking at it right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Hold on, I think I actually might be able to flip to something here. I have something we do trivia with most of the time, but crap, I didn't set that shit up. Hold on, give me a second. Bollocks, live editing, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. So this is what Russ is talking about here. You'll be able to see it on the stream in a second here, Russ. But that's the John label that he's talking about right there. With the Liberty Bell and like I said, the guy swinging on the bell there, which is kind of fun. Yeah. So I think Joe said here, is Russ in Philadelphia? No, he's not. He's up in Maine.
I'm in Maine. I've got a lot of family in the area down there, so I lived there when I was younger. So I am a big fan of Philadelphia sports teams, and also been to quite a few breweries in the area. So.
Yeah, they have a ton. Have you check out all the artwork from Hoof-Hearted Brewing?
Yeah. Those guys distribute up in Maine. So I don't know what they have some sort of relationship with a distributing company here. So we get all their beers. And I was just showing somebody the other day how ridiculous some of their can art is. One of them was like Mom Jeans. I don't know if you've seen that one. You can pull that one up. Some of their
jeans.
Mom Jeans is the name of their beer.
And
they've also got like just some stuff that's just kind of ridiculous. So I've got probably 6 or 8 of those cans in the book.
Mom Jeans.
Yeah, they've got some 80s stuff going on. They've got some pretty funny stuff on their cans. Same with what's the brewery called? Against the Grain in Kentucky does a great job. They've got a lot of funky stuff going on with their beers as well, and their designs are pretty cool.
Oh, I think I found what the label looks like here. Give me a second here. I'm gonna flip back to there. All right, so it looks like a mom. She's holding a phaser, or maybe that's a crossbow. Wait, what is that from? There is a. So he says, because Joe, you were saying that this has to do with movies and stuff like that. So.
Some of them, yeah, they've got like. From Better Off Dead, which is a great 80s movie with John Cusack. They've got it's from the Van Halen song, but it's Everybody Wants Some, and it's a scene from the movie, so they've got like the little hamburgers from the movie. So
wait, he said check out Tub is Life. Where the hell is Tub is Life? Dude, where is Tub is Life? Oh, here it is. Oh no. It's like Tupac.
They've got some just ridiculous stuff. Again, like they're out of Ohio, and just all their can art is kind of funny. Their beers are actually really good too. I should say that their can design, the design work is pretty hilarious, but their beers are pretty solid.
Do you think a lot of can people who are doing how that's a double milk stout?
Yeah, they get pretty creative with it.
But do you think a lot of times like you have like breweries that are making like really good can art because it also is to catch the eye of the consumer, right? Who's walking through these aisles of all these choices, right? And do you think sometimes they get like people just get so extreme with the artwork on it, just to be, maybe it's that one thing that catches the person's eye to say, oh, it's a hippo in a swimsuit. Oh, maybe I'll try that one. Do you think that influences the artwork influences the actual like the opinion of someone or their willingness to try it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think like wine consumers tend to buy bottles of wine that have animals on them. I don't know, like there's sort of something that draws you in with the label art on anything. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're, I wouldn't say the average beer consumer, but quite a few folks probably buy craft beer purely based on the label art if they're not a huge, like, knowledgeable person when it comes to different styles and things like that. They're probably drawn to certain things. I work with people that are like, oh, have you had this beer from blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, yeah, you know that Anheuser-Busch owns that brewery, right? Like, they don't even know the difference from.
Right.
So, I mean, and it's not anything against, I'm just saying, like, I think people are, the average consumer maybe is just drawn to things. It's just kind of human nature. I think once you get into the world of, like, you're really into craft beer, I mean, some of the breweries that have the weakest label art and are kind of boring make some of the best beers. I mean, up here in Maine Beer Company makes amazing beer, but all their artwork is just a white label with the name of the beer on it with maybe a little tiny bit of artistic,
I think like Mo is one of them, or
Yeah, I mean, all of their stuff. I mean, like, one of their best beers is just called Dinner, and it just says Dinner on the label, and it's like, but it's a beer.
dinner. That's it.
But then you've got stuff, like I said, like Fort George, where it's like, it's a pretty complicated label. I think if I was walking down the beer aisle and I saw a can of beer that had a hop, like I said, riding a tank, shooting hops, I'd probably be like, okay, somebody put a lot of effort into that design. I know the brewery makes decent beer. Probably want to try it. I don't know.
Well, I got to admit, I was one of those people for a while, especially when Ballast Point first came into the area, right? With every single time I look at the label, it had a fish on it, and I was like, why? What's the fish? And I didn't know half the names of the fish, and it was very confusing to me. So, but yeah, I was very judgmental of some of the labels for Ballast Point because of that, because I didn't, and maybe at the time it was when I was just starting to learn and understand craft beer better,
Yeah.
But again, I myself was making like these judgment calls based on the way the beer looked, the label, not what was in the actual bottle, because I don't think at the time they were actually canning.
Yeah.
They can't some now. But I mean, I love Ballast Point. They have before they were bought out by someone, not by a macro brewery, but someone bought them out, right?
Somebody that imports a lot of Mexican beer, I think, that bought them out.
Yeah, I mean, but even now, they still produce some pretty decent beers. And I like the artwork on some of the other of their beers. They have one where it's like a, damn, what was the name of the one? I can't remember, but it had a pirate. I guess he was trapped on a beach. It was a session ale, but it was a skeleton of him, and I don't know, it kind of reminded me. You reference Goonies, so I'm gonna see if I can find it real fast. Let's see if
21st Amendment. I don't think that's what you're talking about, but they do some great artwork.
Oh yeah, they do.
Them. I'd be interested. You got a bunch of folks in this chat room here, and I think they're kind of talking about the different designs they like. Yellow Snow, yeah, that's Rogue. Somebody mentioned something of whether or not the breweries have like the designs first and then they come up with the beer. Kind of like, do you have the band name before you've written a song or something like that?
Right.
But I definitely think there's there's breweries out there that have got something in mind and then they're just waiting for a beer to use the label for. It's I don't know. It's kind of funny now because I think a lot of folks have a lot of inside jokes they throw on a beer label and things like that, and a lot of stuff that are references to things that are obscure, and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? And then you find out what the backstory is or something like that, and you're like, oh, wow. Like, I don't think anybody's ever drinking your beers ever known anything about where you came up with that label art or where you came up with the name for that. So, but there's so many, I don't know, thousands of beers being released every week in the U.S. when it comes to craft beer. It's amazing that there's not more of the infighting over designs and more infighting over the different names and things like that. So
there's Victory at Sea by Ballast Point, which has a pretty decent label. And I know they're showing a bottle here, but it's not. And also, Dead Ringer is another one that they do. There's an Oktoberfest version style that they do. Damn it. There's one other one that I don't see it here in the. Maybe it's in the year round. It doesn't really matter. But I mean, like, it's but the artwork itself always stood out. After I got past the whole fish thing, and then realized that the beer was good, started enjoying what it was. I was able to actually start enjoying the artwork on it as well, beyond the whole fish. I think sculpting. I mean, they it always has like that that obviously the fish on it. So, but so here's a question. If you obviously like beer, this is definitely a tangent. But what is your opinion of some of the beers that are now adding fruit to it, like fruit IPAs?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm at the point when it comes to craft beer, kind of like I am with music. If it tastes good, like it sounds like, I don't get too crazy about being judgmental. I mean, if it's good, it's good. I mean, I've had mango IPAs, and I mean, I think I've seen pretty much everything in beer now. And sometimes I'm like, God, that sounds horrible, and it's great. Like a lot of breweries add like habanero and like habanero sculpin. Like, who would have thought like a spicy IPA would have like worked out? But that's a great beer. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it depends what it is. I think pretty much anything but banana I would probably drink. Once we start going to the banana route, I don't know.
So that banana bread beer,
not your thing. That's probably where I cross the line. But yeah, I think I've seen pretty much everything. But a lot of hops bring out those, like, you don't even need the fruit. A lot of the hops that they have now and that they've genetically modified bring out flavors where, like, how is there not fruit in this? But that flavor profile from the hops is so strong. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's been around for a while. Like, I think like Oregon has an entire beer festival around fruit beer.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, we have like the lambics, which are very fruit forward, but
sure,
then, like they're like, it just seemed like because we recently were at our local pub and we did an interview with Devil's Backbone, which I don't think they actually do any canned beers, but they
do a bunch.
They do? Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. Down in Virginia?
Yep.
Yeah, they do a bunch, yeah.
They actually, the one guy was asking me, well, what do you think is the next thing in beer? And I was saying, coffee wine? No, we'll get to that in a second, Zach. Give me a second. I don't know what that means. So,
that's the next thing, really.
Yeah, coffee wine. Right, but like he was asking me, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next fad in beer? And I was like,
what's left?
I know, what is left, really?
Yeah, I saw like a barrel-aged Goza that was like a barrel-aged Goza with like some fruit, or might have been coffee. I have no idea, but it was like so complex, so many things layered into it, that I was like, man, I don't think we can get anywhere beyond this. I mean, we've got into this realm of like, kind of like when somebody takes 10 minutes to order at Starbucks, we've got some complex thing. We've got beers that are coming out, which is, I'm all for it. I'll try anything, but it's amazing how complex and how many things we're layering into beer,
So you said you'd try anything, right? So last night.
Well, okay. So sorry, banana in beer.
Okay, all right. Well, last night we were talking about weird beer. Welcome back, Drew. What's up, man? We were talking about odd beers, and it came up that Stone Brewing Company decided they are building. They're brewing a beer called Full Circle, that is made with wastewater.
Oh yeah, right. So I have had, I don't know if you've heard of this, you probably have. It was a brewery in Colorado in, what's it called? Wincoop did, as a April Fool's joke, they announced that they were going to do a Rocky Mountain oyster stout. I don't know if you know this story. You might know the story. So that was their April Fool's joke, was that they were going to do a Rocky Mountain oyster stout. So most people probably know what Rocky Mountain oysters are. Yeah. And then they went on to actually brew the Rocky Mountain oyster stout with bull testicles. And then they actually put it in cans. So I ended up with a can of it. So they have, and the can design's great. But so it's a stout brewed with bull testicles. And I don't know. You drink the beer, you don't taste anything that you're like, wow, that's weird. That's got to be bull testicles. But you talk about as far as brewers go, I mean, like that's pretty bad. So. Yeah.
It's funny because I think we were talking about that beer last night, and I think they said per I guess keg or something like
Yeah,
that.
there's
It
a
was
lot
per
of testicles.
It was like three testicles.
Yeah.
3 testicles per whatever it was. And it was just like,
It wasn't dry testicle though, which would have
no.
more of the testicle flavor out, the aroma and all that. So.
Someone made the joke last night. That's a bit nutty. And I was like, it's a bit bad. So, but there was also another beer that was brewed. It was brewed with moon rock or lunar dust.
Mm.
It's out of actually it was Dogfish. Dogfish did it out of the Rehoboth Brew Pub. They ground up moon dust.
Oh, they
Lunar
also
rock.
released a beer made with scrapple.
I've heard that.
You know, called breakfast or beer for breakfast or something like that. So I need to plug in my computer before it dies. So give me one second.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so that was that was definitely one of those things. Got a kitchen, Papa Chips. Thank you for the auto host. Let's see, fruit done well is good. Yeah, it depends on the fruit beer. I just think that all these breweries are now trying to do fruit forward beers and trying to make fruit versions of their flagships that they already have. I'm kind of getting back to this whole coffee wine. New thing I heard about is coffee wine.
I've seen coffee cider too. So
Really?
cider brew with coffee. So maybe coffee wine is the next big thing.
I wonder when they because I mean there's the cold fermenting of the kind of secondary, like you have all these coffee ambers, coffee lagers, where they're actually just the beer still looks crystal clear. It's not a dark beer, but when you drink it, it tastes like and they actually in the Chamonix Creek did a Coffee John.
Yeah, well, Oscar Billy's just released that coffee IPA, which is really good. And if you ever want an amazing coffee beer, this is the Skillet Donut Stout.
Ooh.
From Burial. This is like pretty. I think people get pretty psyched for this when it comes out. But man, this is like one of the best coffee beers I've ever had. It's made with counterculture coffee, and it is like somebody just cold pressed an absolutely amazing coffee into an amazing stout. It's fantastic beer. So sometimes when you get a really good pairing with coffee and stout, somebody puts it together really well. I don't know. I'm a big hop head, but sometimes with coffee beers, it's almost as good. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't actually drink coffee, but the only time I ever drink coffee is when it's in beer. So
really,
yeah, it's not my thing. I like the flavor of it in beer. I like how it complements some of the maltiness. It just creates a really nice meld together. I've done a coffee milk stout where in the secondary after it's done fermenting, I just tossed in some like a quarter cup of like coffee beans not ground and just let it soak in there for like 2 weeks, and it just consumes that flavor and that scent. So it's a thank you for the host, man. I do appreciate it. I think and actually on Saturday my brother Scott and I, we're going to be streaming live and again for Under the Suds, and we're going to be brewing beers, doing our some beer brewing, and I'm actually doing a red ale, an amber ale, and then I'm gonna convert that into a coffee amber, I think. So using the same technique, because again, so when it's done fermenting and it's at a cooler temperature, when you stick it into a secondary and you throw coffee beans into it, it doesn't take up any of the color. It just takes up that aroma and that taste of the coffee beans, which is how.
So does that affect the acidity from the coffee beans? Does that affect the beer at all? Because I've heard a lot of people will say that what they do is they cold press coffee when they're brewing. They cold press the coffee and then that's what they add to the beer, so that the acidity from the beans doesn't affect like the head of the beer or kind of the profile of it.
No, I've talked to some brewers about it. That's what they've done, just whole coffee beans or ground up coffee. It doesn't really. In fact, yeah, Ratchesphere, who's here, he actually worked for a brewery for a while and does a lot of brewing on Twitch. So if you ever want to watch someone else do brewing, you can definitely check him out.
Yeah, I am a novice brewer. I am not I'm not a huge home brewer, so I'm just curious if that was something that impacted the beer.
Yeah, he says when you're adding beans to a secondary, it's cold. You're cold brewing. So the secondary is already at that point where it's chill. It's not chilled, but it's
Oh yeah, I guess that
room
would be.
temperature. Yeah, so you're not taking the color from the bean. If it was hot, you're sticking in like an amber. It would be a very dark amber at that point. But it wouldn't be. It's not something that. Again, this is only taking the flavor and the aroma. So my plan, hopefully, this is the first time I'm going to try this out. Is this red ale that I'm this amber ale that I'm brewing? I'm hoping that the maltiness of this beer melds really nicely with whatever coffee I decide to put into this thing. So leave it in there for 2 weeks, and then we'll either keg it or bottle it, which will be fun. And we haven't brewed in a while, so it'll be a good time. But yeah, no, it's a cool technique that a lot of breweries have been using recently in their beers, which is kind of cool. What's up, Dark Hair Breedy? How are you? Good to see you. So wait, your book right now, you have the one book out. I'm getting back on track again. I had a tangent, a little squirrel moment there, right? So, your book, you have one book out right now, and you can actually find that where, like on Amazon, on.
Yeah, well, the website you can just go to is called cannedbeerbook.com. It's pretty straightforward, but it has some image shots of the book. Kind of shows you a little bit of how the book was put together, and it has some links where you can get it. So
I'm gonna bring that up real fast, and then what we can do is we can flip back to that the other view, and you can actually see what. Let me show you guys.
So I'm really bad at plugging anything.
So am I. So I'm doing my best.
I'd be pretty bad on like Saturday Night Live if I just had a movie out or something. I wouldn't know how to talk about it. But yeah, so there's a website that just kind of has some images of the book, pages from the book. So.
All right, we can look inside real fast, and you can see. I'm gonna bring that up right here. Okay, cool. And the first one I clicked on was like Heady Topper, so it tells about the design of the beer, of the can itself, the artwork.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Shows some of the. Oh, it shows talks about what the artwork, how the artwork was actually what is in the artwork.
Yeah.
Here. So what type of beer it is. We'll scroll through real fast. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. I like that. New England Brewing.
Yeah, Ganibot from New England was one of my favorites. So if anybody wants to see a funky design, that was one of the better designs back in the day when craft beer was still trying to kind of figuring out where they were going with canned beer design. That was one of the cooler ones that was around. Like I said, in the world of, I think I started that book 5 or 6 years ago. It came out 3.5 years ago, but in the world of craft beer, like I said, that's like 30 years. So
yeah, things speed up really, really quickly here. The Irish Red from Santa Fe. So did you actually have beers, like breweries just sending you beers just so you can?
So our mailman and our FedEx guy absolutely hated me for a year. And every time I got home from work, I'd get all psyched up because most of the breweries, when I contacted them, were like, they were totally into it. They were like, "Oh, that sounds awesome! Like we're one of the few that are canning or whatever it was at the time." So they were totally excited about it, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll send you, a can of each of the beers we're can. Like we'll send you one of each, and then we'll have our artist follow up with you." So I was getting, and it was awesome for a while. It was like 4 or 5 months of like 1 or 2 days a week, if not more, of getting a package in the mail from different breweries around the country. And, and it was, in the world of craft beer, people are so friendly and nice, and they were very generous. Oh, yeah. And, be like, "Oh, I need 1 can." They'd send a 6-pack, or they'd send a bunch of stickers along with it and things like that. So it was kind of a fun bonus to putting a book together. So that was how I did the first one. The second one, I didn't want to go that route. I felt a little bit guilty from the first one that I couldn't even, I ended up like sharing a lot of the beer with friends. So the second one, I actually ended up pretty much getting all of the cans myself. I had a few breweries that I couldn't get that I really was excited about that I'd reach out to, and they were generous enough to send cans. But I would say like 95% of the second book, the cans that I had either came from people that I knew that shared cans with me, or I got them myself. I just felt really bad about writing to breweries and say, send me beer. But I would say to anybody who's interested in getting a lot of free beer, putting a book together and is a great way to do it.
Okay.
You know,
or maybe even doing a beer talk show.
yeah, you could do that. You could just say that, we're I'm gonna present your beer. I'm gonna review it, and I'm sure they would do it.
Yeah, it's true. I've had a few like the local breweries say, really interested in like River Horse. The reason why I was there today was we're actually planning on doing a live stream from their tap room on April 1st. So we got that all set up now. So if you guys didn't know, April 1st we'll be doing a like I said, a live stream from River Horse Brewing Company, where we have the brewer come down and sit down with us and talk about the brewery, history of the brewery, and all sorts of stuff. But River Horse is, they give me all stuff their beers all the time. Knowing that I what I'm doing, and even some of the other local breweries. But we only started as a few, like, shit, I don't know, it was maybe I don't know, 25 weeks ago. So we haven't been doing it too long.
You're speaking in like you have a small child talk.
I know. 25 weeks ago. No, because every episode I always put like episode, because we do one episode a week. With exceptions. Obviously today's an exception, and this weekend is an exception as well. But the actual beer talk show is always once a week. And then after that, it's really just kind of, So I think we've done about 25 episodes so far. So 25 weeks ago, I'm not really good at math.
6 months.
Good. There you go. Thank you. Thanks. Someone can do it, not me. I've been drinking, and I was at a River Horse earlier, and I was drinking beer too. They're like, "Here, have a beer." I was like, "I'm not gonna say no." So, but yeah. So your new book, the new book you're working on, you said it's how far along are you on it?
Well, I've done I got all the images done. That was the biggest part. I can tell you right now that when it comes to photography, cans, because they're aluminum, are like, it's the biggest pain in the ass in the world to take pictures of cans. I mean, even the breweries complain about it.
The shine.
Yeah, the shine on it. So I went down to the publisher and did all the pictures probably in December, and it was like 2.5 days straight of moving my hand like this, taking a picture, moving my hand like this, taking a picture. So I did all that. So it's like 1,800 photos or something like that for the book.
Wow.
And then it's just going through painstakingly every single can and writing to the brewery or contacting people and calling them up and saying, putting these cans in the book, can you tell me who I can credit for the artwork and a little bit about the design? So I'm about 3/4 of the way through, probably a little more than that.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a labor of love, and then you really kind of put a lot of work into it, and then kind of see what happens. So
when if I may put you on the spot, when do you think you're going to be publishing it, this next book?
Oh yeah, it'll probably well, publishers they usually come out with books twice a year.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be like early next year, come out. So it takes a while. Things move pretty slow. So
yeah, I've always wanted to publish a book. Right, that's would have been always been one of my goals in life. So
I would say it's not as intimidating as you think. If you have a great idea, pitch it. There are quite a few publishers out there that are always looking for kind of unique ideas. So when it comes to craft beer, I mean, there are books about everything when it comes to craft beer. So if you can come up with an angle or something unique that hasn't been done, I'd say go for it, because there's a lot of interest out there. I mean, a lot of people kind of want to learn anything they can about craft beer. So there's like cookbooks that are just about, people cooking with beer. There's every possible book about every location in the country has a book about the beer. But if you can come up with something, I say go for it.
Okay. No, that's cool. So next year the book will probably most likely come out?
Yeah, next year, probably early next year.
Okay. Well, I mean, is there anything you want to plug? I mean, we've been at it for about like an hour and a half. I mean, generally these things go for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on how much beer we're drinking.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it was really cool. This is my first time ever doing something like this. Yeah, but I think it went well. No, I mean, I think, hopefully I'm doing a service to the folks that are the designers behind the beer labels. I think they tend to go unnoticed, and there's a lot of talented folks out there. So
Right.
I'm just trying to do a little bit of giving them some shout outs and giving them some attention they deserve. Other than that, I think, feel very fortunate to live right now in this kind of golden age of craft beer. So kind of taking advantage of it as much as I can.
Well, it is definitely a golden age. I mean, I think what was it that Southroud said you did good. Don't worry, Russ.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
So I mean, it is a golden age. I mean, think about now. Last year, I think they published that there was over 5,005 breweries and constantly growing in the U.S.
Yeah.
So in 2016, and with all the experimentation of beer and people trying new things, and even like, oh, that's something I totally forgot to ask. So I see Craft Cans, but then I saw Craft Cans Canada, Craft Cans UK.
Yeah, right.
So
that was a bit of a fun little, like, I think at the heyday, I was just kind of seeing where it would go. Okay. Craft Cans Canada did kind of take off. Guy I know up in Vancouver, in Western Canada, he was actually kind of instrumental in kind of trying to take that over in Canada. And then he actually ended up starting a mobile canning company up in British Columbia. So he does that. So I don't know how much the website really kind of, I don't know, it probably got started and kind of stopped. But I had a few other folks that were interested in kind of having Facebook pages that were kind of regional. So I would say the one in the Pacific Northwest is, he does a pretty good job. Josh Trudeau, he actually is posting photos quite a bit. There's quite a few, but I think a lot of them are kind of slowed down. Craft Cans is like, I think we're at the mature stage. I think cans are everywhere. Kind of focus on I kind of throw some stuff on Instagram once in a while. Kind of still enjoy kind of showcasing the different designs and the beers that kind of come across in cans. But yeah, I mean, I feel like in a weird, small, tiny little way, maybe I had some influence on kind of the popularity of it. I would say that's probably minuscule, but I tried hard to kind of showcase that for years on the website. So, but it's kind of cool now when I walk around and it's like, wow, there's a lot of like pretty amazing beers in cans. And, so, and I would say if anybody's ever up in Portland, Maine, we got a lot of great beer up here. So give me a shout if you're ever here and you need somebody to show you around, because there's a lot of great beers and a lot of great breweries to check out.
There you go. I mean, we go up to a Bar Harbor every once in a while. So I don't know how far that is from you.
A few hours. Probably 2 hours drive. But you got to go through Portland to get there, pretty much. So.
Oh right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Oh. Yeah, you kind of have to. There's not a lot of roads up here.
No, there isn't. So and I agree with Cherish Games. I think
Trent. I didn't know Trent was on here. Trent just texted me. Trent is a huge. I have to give him a plug. Trent is like one of the first. Trent is. I think he's on here. He's following along here.
Yeah.
Trent is in Michigan, in Kalamazoo. But Trent is one of the first people that supported craftcans.com, and I immediately kind of reached out to him and asked him if he wanted to be a part of the website. So he has written reviews. He's written a bunch of things for craftcans.com over the years. He's been a huge supporter, great guy. And so cheers, Trent. He says, Sathra stole my quote. You've done good. Oh, buddy. Trent.
So, I mean, there's the cool thing about Twitch is that, if you're not logged in, you obviously can't chat, but people can watch it live and whatever, So if you're watching right now and you haven't ever seen the channel before, please don't forget to follow. Create an account. Come hang out. We're here every Wednesday, and we'll be here on Saturday brewing beer. And Russ, thank you again for coming in and talking with us about the can beer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My pleasure. Anytime.
I think, and if you're ever interested in coming back and hanging out and just maybe even just doing a regular show just to talk about beer, it's up to you. We can.
Yeah, let me know.
We can organize it.
Oh, I can talk about beer for hours. So yeah.
Well, most of the guys we have on can definitely talk about beer for hours. So
I'd love to be a part of a panel. So if you need folks, let me know.
Yeah, I will. And guys, don't forget to check out craftcannon.com and also Russ's book out there. I put the link in the channel. Canned beer book. It looks like you can get it on multiple different Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So probably can find it. Go check that out, and make sure you look for his book next year, the second book that's coming out. Is the title of the second book going to be different, or is it?
Yeah, I don't really know what it'll be titled. I'm kind of come up with something, so it'll be something probably similar, but
okay.
Trying to come up with something that's it's a work. I'm still working on that. So
okay, it's to be determined.
To be determined, yeah.
To be determined.
We've got a working title right now, so
nice. I like it. Well, anyway, thank you, sir. I do appreciate coming
Absolutely.
on and hanging out. All right, so guys, I'm gonna real fast. Let's find someone else to host real fast, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you are a first time here, if you're just watching, you're not don't have an account on Twitch, very easy to create an account. Come join us, drop us a follow, and if you have any friends that are ever interested in this show, make sure you let them know that what we're doing. We've got a lot of interesting plans for the future. But let's find someone to host real fast. And I don't know who's live right now. Dun, da, da, da. We will check them out. Yeah. And I think it might need another beer. What time is it? Yeah, sure. Why the hell not? I'm working from home tomorrow, so it is what it is. All right, let's check this out here. Who do we got going on? You know what? Let's go give my boy Toaster a host here. He is playing Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't know, Russ, are you a big video game fan?
Oh boy, I play the Wii with my two small children, and and they don't know that the Wii is old and not cool. So, I'm not, unfortunately. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. I mean, I
have no free time in my life. This is it. Late at night after the kids are asleep.
No, that's why I started this in the first place. Is one reason I started the show was so I can sit down with my friends, have a proper pint, and just drink, and just talk with them, because I can't get to the pub as often as I wanted to. Yeah. So, all right. So Thigh Toaster is streaming right now. Mass Effect Andromeda. It came out just a few weeks ago. Go give him a follow, and guys, we will see you guys on Saturday. At 11 a.m. we're going to be setting up and starting the stream, so definitely join us there. We'll be brewing 2 beers, Dead Presidents and a coffee red ale, and I guess after we're done brewing, we'll let you guys choose some names. We'll let you guys vote on it and figure out what the best names for these beers are. Russ, thank you again.
Thank you.
Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back if you ever want to come back and hang out and drink some beer with us.
Yeah, just let me know. I'd love to.
All right, very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. We will talk to you on Saturday, 11 a.m. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Have a good night.